Coming to you from the Hudson Media Group studio, this is Talking Politics, and I am the professor and New Jersey's premier journalist, Fernando Uribe. Hoping you all had a wonderful week. There is a lot to discuss, so let's get started. Here's what I'm thinking about right now. Ladies and gentlemen, let me be very, very clear in the way that I outline this, because I'm sure it'll trigger somebody, as it usually does. But don't be fooled with the Equality Act. Now, certainly, if you've been keeping up with your news feeds, you'll know that the Equality Act was passed in the House of Representatives last week by a slim margin, and it will now go to the Senate for review. And certainly, if it passes the Senate, even though Democrats hold a very slim majority there, it will subsequently go to President Biden's desk for signature. But before you even get to that, let's sort of break this down exactly about why there's so much outrage and hoopla concerning the Equality Act. Now, without a doubt, its original intent is to protect vulnerable minorities from unjust discrimination, let's say along LGBT lines. But I think also what we're missing, and what the liberal media won't tell you because they're never really honest with you to begin with, but it's the fact that the Equality Act is going to be used, or at least it's in the process of being used as a sword to persecute those who do not embrace new sexual and gender ideologies. Now, I've talked about this on previous episodes, folks, about, quite frankly, the language being put out there when it comes to gender and sexual identity or ideologies. And we all know that in the first 30 plus days of the Biden administration, we've seen executive orders galore under the 46th president. And one that I talked about at length was the fact of now, this administration and certainly advocates and activists all across the country feel that, hey, listen, biological boys now identifying as girls seems to be, an acceptable participant now when it comes to women's sports. And I've always said this where, don't we always hear in the liberal media or in activism about the fact that, women's rights are infringed upon and, we can't, reproductive rights this or women's rights that. And that's great. We want to talk about these things. But we're liberals when it comes to standing up for women, right? Especially when it comes to, biological women playing sports. And listen, folks, this doesn't make me hateful or bigoted. I think it just makes me fair and consistent. Boys should play with boys and girls should play with girls. That's it. But for whatever reason, we're seeing that LGBT activists, certainly the new administration in Washington, and again, the liberal mainstream media are all complicit and enablers in this sort of narrative being pushed through and really being pushed down our throats here in today's current political climate. But more so, when it comes to the Equality Act, I think there's something else to sort of think about. And it's the fact that religious liberty in this country, which has been slowly eroding for years, probably faces its greatest threat in a generation. Now, you might say, Fernando, you're being hyperbolic. You're being dramatic. No, I'm not. Because at least when you look at the language of the Equality Act, let's be very fair. You don't need a law degree to know that it threatens the First Amendment and, more specifically, freedom of religion on a scale that we haven't seen in decades in this country. Okay? It's ultimately going to force churches, synagogues, and mosques collectively, and other religious organizations like Christian colleges and universities alike to, quote, recognize gender identity and sexual orientation as legally protected classifications, despite how those lifestyles might conflict with deeply held religious beliefs. Right? So, for example, the passage of the Equality Act, H.R. 5, by the House of Representatives in late February inches the bill closer to becoming, again, law pending Senate approval and the near certainty of a signature from President Biden. But also, we can argue it's the most dangerous piece of legislation in our lifetime concerning religious freedom. Now, you're probably asking, what would that look like? So, for example, let's imagine a youth camp where teenage boys would normally be housed in separate sleeping quarters from teenage girls, right? That makes sense, right? Well, not under H.R. 5, because any boy who identifies as a female, would be legally entitled to bunk with girls. Or any girl who identifies as a male will be legally entitled to bunk with boys. So according to the Equality Act, ladies and gentlemen, any church that prohibits such action would be violating the individual's civil rights and could face legal action. Let me put it in an even bigger perspective. Just imagine a Sunday school class for all of you Catholics and Christians out there, if you remember what Sunday school was like, where let's say 8-year-old boy named Paul, for example, is now really Paula, right? And wants to wear a dress to class or use the girls' bathroom. So if that made other children feel confused or their parents uncomfortable, hey, according to the language of the Equality Act, too bad. Any attempt by the church to deny the child's freedom to attend the class dressed as a he or a she, pick your pronoun, folks, to use the restroom of his or her choosing, or any attempt to counsel the child to accept their God-given gender would be a violation of the child's civil rights, and the church could be legally liable. Seems unlikely? Not really, folks. Even during the time of running for president, then candidate Joe Biden told attendees at a town hall meeting, it was on CNN, right, where he was campaigning that, for example, an 8-year-old child should have the freedom to determine his or her gender. Listen, an 8-year-old child, you know what? Nah, they can't drink beer, and rightfully so. They can't smoke cigarettes, rightfully so. But again, according to Joe Biden and his warped mind and those of the left, hey, if a kid wants to change his gender at the age of 8, that's cool. Folks, again, I'm not being dramatic, I'm not being hyperbolic, but that's the language we're facing. That's the rhetoric we're being subjected to. Okay? And this is what the Equality Act is trying to shove down your throats, right? The idea that if you don't subscribe to this sort of narrative, then you're viewed as hateful, you're viewed as a transphobe, you're viewed as a homophobe, you're viewed as a bigot. Folks, let me be very clear about something. I'm none of those things. I'm a lot of things, but hardly any of the aforementioned adjectives and nouns. Because at the end of the day, folks, I'll put my money where my mouth is, okay? I'm a staunch supporter of Garden State Equality. Okay, and if anyone doesn't know what Garden State Equality is, it's the leading LGBT organization in the state of New Jersey. Not only have I donated money to this organization, I've also interviewed their executive director, Christian Friscarino, on other media programs that I host online. And I've also attended events to support Garden State Equality. Why? Because I have LGBT friends. And I certainly want to, be accepting. I also want to make sure that I don't just talk about inclusion, but I'm about it, about practicing it, not preaching it. But folks, there comes a line where you can be supportive of the LGBT community, but not acquiesce to some of the crazy radical ideas that we're seeing with either the Equality Act or just in general, just again, going back to the fact of somehow we think it's good to normalize the fact of biological boys playing in girls' sports. Again, I'll put the example out there. Just imagine for all you dads and moms out there, driving your little girls to soccer practice, to softball practice, track and field, tennis, basketball, whatever. And just think about the fact of having that uncomfortable and awkward conversation with your daughter. That now, let's say as they're getting older, let's say through elementary school, middle school, and let's say even to high school, and you're gifted with the opportunity of having a daughter who is an amazing athlete. Well, guess what? Women's sports are already not funded as well as they should be. And again, this is pre-COVID, right? Even though Title IX at the federal level guarantees women's sports to be funded at the college and university levels, they still face struggles. Just imagine now having that awkward conversation with your daughter and saying to her, hey, by the way, guess what? Not only do you have to compete against girls, right, biological girls on your team, but now boys that are identifying as girls. Folks, it's unfair. It's as simple as that. But the left in this country would tell you that, hey, if you say otherwise, that, again, you're not inclusive, that you're not welcoming, that you're not accepting. Folks, I am. But science is science. Don't we hear that all the time from the left? Right? When it comes to, let's say, about climate, oh, well, you better believe in science, because if you don't believe in science, then you know what, you're antiquated, or you are hateful, or you are just someone that has a disconnect with reality. Well, folks, you want to believe in science, you either believe in science completely or you don't. It's 2 chromosomes. It's XX or XY. That's it. It's 2 genders. Okay? I don't want to hear about this sort of narrative that's being put forth, whether it's by the Equality Act or anyone else, about how we view biology. I was looking at my transcript this weekend, and actually I found one from my time at Memorial High School. Actually, guess what? I got an A. I actually took biology at Rutgers University in New Brunswick, and I looked at my transcript recently, and guess what? I got an A. Seems like people, whether it's journalists, activists, even elected officials at the highest levels in this country, must have forgotten when they took high school biology, because you know what? Maybe they need to retake it and learn some basic fundamentals about science. You either believe in science or you don't. And again, going back to the Equality Act, don't be fooled by it, folks. You know what? It's window dressing for something that could really infringe upon the rights of people all across this country. And that's what I'm thinking about right now. On this week's edition of the 4-time award-winning podcast, Talkin' the Hudson, which you can listen to live every Wednesday night at 9 p.m. by going to www.blogtalkradio.com/Talkin' the Hudson, was sort of a new type of guest, because in 2021, it's not just about politics, but I also want to discuss health and wellness and also real estate. And as we all know, people are looking to move into Hudson County, and many are looking to move out. So I spoke with real estate professional Ezequiel Gonzalez from Remax in North Bergen for well over an hour. And here are some highlights for your consideration. First off, we talked about some helpful tips for potential home buyers during this pandemic and what to expect in this market. Let's hear what he had to say.
And, you just brought up perfectly, when we think of the chart house, right, and going all the way to the Galaxy on River Road, I mean, that was, you would not even jog there. You just drove on that road because it was just easy, to get to point A to point B. But, we've seen development in Weehawken, whether it's at the overpass of the Lincoln Tunnel, which I think has ruined an iconic view. If anyone remembers watching The Sopranos in the intro, I mean, that view coming out of the tunnel is now obscured, obviously, because of development. But, as we go up north, Ezekiel, we see that there are condos all over the place. We're seeing it up the hill into West New York, into Weehawken, Union City, Gunberg, North Bergen, obviously Southeast Bergen County. Let's talk about the challenges that realtors face today when it comes to, hey, people have a specific house in mind or a condo or whatever the case may be. They have, como se dice, ya lo tienen en la mente. They have it in their minds, what they want. They reach out to you. What does the process feel like in terms of trying to assure them that, we'll get this done. We'll get what you're looking for?
Well, the first thing they need to be is realistic, okay? The prices here in Hudson County are, sky high. You could find, properties, but you have to be qualified. You have to be well qualified, and you have to stand out from the hundreds of other people that are looking at the same property. So, in essence, you got to come with your A game and really have a substantial down payment, be well qualified, full price offers. That's what's going to get you into a house. Nowadays, if you're going to, tire kick and lowball, don't even bother. And that's the market it is right now in Hudson County.
Well, Ezekiel, let me ask you this, because when we talk about, again, this is the professor, the academic in me. Let's break this down, right? Let's sort of do an outline here for our audience tonight. And when someone has a property in mind, whether it be a condo or more specifically a house, and you mentioned, I think the great key is to be realistic. You have to look at what you have to work with, and people would say, well, I think I've saved enough for a good down. And the numbers fluctuate, right? People say, well, if you put down between 15 to 20%, obviously, if you're pre-approved already for a mortgage, that's one, and we'll get to that in a moment. But normally, from your experience, what do you tell potential home buyers where the down should be? Is it really still 15 to 20%, or are deals getting done with less?
Well, look, they're getting done with less. They're getting done with as low as 3.5%. That's an FHA loan. It's a lot harder for those offers to be accepted because obviously, from the seller's perspective, they want a solid deal. And when you have 3.5 down in their eyes, that buyer doesn't really have a lot to lose should something go south. However, realtors have to be, they have to kind of get around that in the sense of, they're FHA buyers, they're low down payment. However, they are well qualified. They have great credit. They don't have a lot of debt. And realtors have to, go as far as writing some letters stating the history between you guys. I've done it many times and I've gotten the deal, only because there's so much more competition. You put an offer in, you're just a number. You're just one of the, 10 offers that went on that property. So a realtor, he or she really wants to help that buyer get creative, and be aggressive with the offer, or be professional and be knowledgeable too, because the agent on the other side is really going to pick who they want to work with.
Without a doubt, they were very helpful hints for potential home buyers, again, as there's something for everyone in this marketplace. Secondly, we talked about sort of the bigger question right now, is it a buyer's or a seller's market in 2021? Let's hear what Ezekiel had to say.
I've seen the evolution of the area. when it comes to development. I've also seen sort of the evolution of how, development goes up, or as people want to relocate. I mean, there was a point when, Manhattan was the place to go to be. It became too expensive. People moved to Brooklyn. Once Brooklyn started getting priced out, people moved across to Jersey City, right downtown, the Exchange area, financial, whatever. And then that got pricey. And people started moving to Jersey City Heights. Then that got expensive. And then we started going up a little north into Union City and West New York and Guttenberg and North Bergen. And now, we're seeing a lot more development. We're seeing homes, as we mentioned, that are, again, $500,000-$600,000. And again, these are well-constructed older homes, but they're well-constructed, but they're going for such a crazy price. It almost seems. I think the question to ask is: this a buyer's market or a seller's market?
No, it's definitely a seller's market. And here's the thing: you mentioned what you were talking about right now is the moving up factor, in the sense of when people are done with, let's say, in a different aspect than the way you said it. But let's say they live in Union City, now they're going to move to North Bergen. Now, where are they going to move? They're going to move to Bergen County. So where they're going to move? Richfield Park, Bogota, Teaneck. So, but what I've been seeing more than that, I mean, I've always had to bring buyers to those other areas because they can't afford a decent house here in Hudson County for what they're qualified for. So what I do is I bring them down and I sell them houses in those areas. Richfield Park is a very nice area. Bogota is a very nice area. So I take them up there. And then what I've been seeing lately is people moving an hour into New Jersey. Like they don't even want to be anywhere close to Manhattan, and they don't need to be because of the pandemic. So now they're working out of their house. There's no need for them to be anywhere near Manhattan. And I've been selling houses an hour away, and it's pretty crazy.
It was a very illuminating episode with Ezequiel Gonzalez from RE/MAX in North Bergen. And without a doubt, real estate will be on the minds of many Hudson County residents, as some will choose to move out, or even some new people will be moving in. And certainly outstanding realtors like Ezequiel Gonzalez go a long way in helping you find your home, and obviously a condo or wherever it is you choose to live, or even renting right now. Ezequiel Gonzalez with RE/MAX from North Bergen is definitely a realtor you want to consult with in the foreseeable future. I'll bring you those exclusives and many more throughout 2021, and you can always check it out live every Wednesday night, once again, by going to www.blogtalkradio.com/Talking the Hudson. You can download the episode and listen to it from any PC, Mac, smartphone, or tablet. And now some local stories for your consideration. And let's start off with the Mile Square City, and again, a great job by Terry West at the Jersey Journal, reminding us all that for the first time in quite some time, the first weekend of March will be uncharacteristically quiet in Hoboken. Now, the annual Leprechaun Bar Crawl, the city's unofficial early celebration of St. Patrick's Day, has been canceled. It's become the second controversial bar crawl to be nixed during the coronavirus pandemic. The SantaCon Christmas pub crawl last year was scratched in December. Now, according to Hoboken Mayor Ravi Bala, quote, the cancellation of Leprechaun is welcome news, given that we're still in the middle of a global health crisis. I thank the many business owners who have been in regular contact with my office and have refused to participate in this unsanctioned event. Now, Leprechaun typically draws hordes of partiers dressed in green from all over the state of New Jersey and even across the river from New York to the city streets and bars for a full day, and results in hundreds of calls for service and, unfortunately, in some instances, some arrests. Now, the Hoboken Police Department, which typically deploys at least 200 officers on this chaotic day, will still have a slightly increased patrol in the event that something does occur, according to Police Chief Ken Ferrante. Now, an additional 36 police officers will be on duty to supplement the approximately 20 that are already on regular duty. Now, the extra policing typically costs the city $100,000, but this year it will come out to just a little under $18,000, once again, according to Chief of Police Ken Ferrante. Now, the Alcohol Beverage Control Commission obviously have detectives that will be monitoring social media for about 6 weeks now, and have noticed that websites that typically sell tickets are not offering them, according, once again, to Chief Ferrante. Sending out extra officers on Saturday seems to be a precautionary measure, and I understand where the chief is coming from. According to Chief Ferrante, quote, because it's close to a 30-year tradition of the first Saturday in March, that's why I'm still doing a supplemental deployment to double our staff out in the street for that day. Now, last year, right before everything shut down, folks, due to COVID-19, 6 people were arrested on charges ranging from drug offenses to driving while intoxicated. Now, that was significantly down from 34 arrests in 2011. Only 4 bars participated in 2020, which Mayor Ravi Bala said was an all-time low. Bala also said he was happy that the bar crawl was, quote, continuing to lose steam, which he repeated this year. Quote, my administration has made a substantial effort to engage with a number of bar owners about con events. And as a result, an all-time low of only 4 bars participated in 2020. And I thank those establishments for their assistance. And this year, the police and financial resources were better spent by the police department than ever before. Now, First Ward Councilman and potential mayoral candidate Mike DeFusco, whose ward includes numerous downtown bars, previously pushed legislation to scale down Leprechaun and said that he was sad that the cancellation only happened because of the pandemic. Quote, hopefully a quiet St. Patrick's Day celebration this year will emphasize the need to advance quality of life legislation surrounding large-scale pub crawls in the foreseeable future, according to a text that he published this week. Folks, listen, as someone who frequented Leprechaun for many years and enjoyed the wild parties and enjoyed everything that really makes Leprechaun fun, seeing old friends, hooking up, whatever, it's an enjoyable time of year. I understand that certainly last March in 2020, right before the pandemic hit and shut everything down, not just in New Jersey, but around the country, even throughout the world, it was great to see Hoboken residents and people from all around being able to come to the Mile Square City to enjoy the pub crawl. Folks, again, and I've said this before, this is something that I really don't agree with Mayor Bala on, and I get it, he's trying to make downtown Hoboken more wholesome as if it's Disneyland. Again, I don't know why the mayor is so oblivious or fixated on this, but again, to each his own. We know that lifestyles, especially when it comes to nightlife and hospitality, have reigned supreme in downtown Hoboken for decades. It's what makes Hoboken such a popular destination for partygoers, not just in New Jersey, but for those across the river in New York City who say, you know what, I'll jump on the PATH train or jump on a New Jersey Transit bus or whatever, or New Jersey Transit train and go to the Mile Square City. It's fun, it's enjoyable, it's a great place to meet women and guys too, whatever your particular brand of vodka is. And the bottom line is that it's been a great pub crawl. And yes, incidents have gone down, arrests have gone down, and that's great. And that's a testament, once again, to Police Chief Ken Ferrante and the hardworking men and women in the Hoboken Police Department who do a great job every year in managing the chaos and the lunacy that sometimes follows these pub crawls. Folks, listen, we were all young once. We all enjoy these pub crawls. They tend to be harmless. For residents that bitch and moan about it, hey, it's one crawl out of the year. Hopefully in 2022, we can return to some sense of normalcy because these pub crawls are fun. They're enjoyable. And as I said, it's become sort of a staple in nightlife and also in sort of celebrating St. Patrick's Day in the Mile Square City, as well as other pub crawls that go out throughout the state of New Jersey. In another local story, and we'll go to Bayonne, a lot has been made over these past few days about breaking news as it pertains to State Assemblyman Nicholas Cervellotti of the 31st Legislative District as he is out of the county line, according to Bayonne Mayor Jimmy Davis. Now, again, a shout out to John Hayes with Hudson County View for his report on this story, and also to Bruce Alston, the publisher of the Hudson County Chronicles, for breaking the news over the weekend as well. Now, teams from both the office of Governor Phil Murphy and that of Assembly Speaker Craig Coughlin have reached out to Bayonne Mayor Jimmy Davis, almost pleading with him to reconsider his decision to not have State Assemblyman Nicholas Cervellotti on the county line. Now, the mayor of Bayonne informed Cervellotti on Friday that he would not be running on the HCDO line for the June 8th primary, and still has not provided a concrete explanation as to why, according to multiple sources with knowledge of the situation who chose to speak with the aforementioned news sources on the condition of anonymity. Now, again, Cervellotti is a former state director for U.S. Senator Bob Menendez, and he is the current New Jersey Assembly Majority Whip. Evidently, he had support to run for a fourth term from some of the top elected leaders in the state, and those are the ones reaching out to Bayonne Mayor Jimmy Davis. However, according to county bylaws, the ultimate decision will lie in the hands of HCDO Chairwoman Amy DeGise. Now, Jimmy Davis, who was first elected as mayor in May of 2014, actually tapped Cervellotti for the Bayonne Assembly seat the following year, and he's been regarded as one of the mayor's closest political allies ever since. Now, a January 21st report filed with the New Jersey Election Law Enforcement Commission shows that Cervellotti has approximately $44,832 on hand, and also he had a fundraiser, which subsequently was scheduled for later in March. Now, additionally, Chair Velody is currently running unopposed in the primary with the April 5th filing deadline about a month away. Recently, at an assembly session, Chair Velody co-sponsored a widely scrutinized bill that would eliminate mandatory minimum sentences for crimes such as drug possession, burglary, and even official misconduct. Now, that bill was approved by a vote of 46-20, with 4 abstaining, and now will be up to Governor Murphy to either sign it or veto the legislation. Now, the governor had previously expressed that he did not agree with the amendment to include official misconduct, which subsequently was introduced by State Senator and North Bergen Mayor Nicholas Sacco in the upper chamber. Both Jimmy Davis and Assemblyman Chair Velody have not returned any calls seeking further comment about the story. Folks, listen, there's a lot going out there. Let me just unpackage this a little bit for you. There seems to be some rumors, and again, I'm not trying to spread them. I'm not trying to slander anybody, but the facts are, rumors are very strong that the Assemblyman was apparently and allegedly working behind Bayonne Mayor Jimmy Davis's back to push the city council president to run against Davis next year. Again, a lot of this can't be substantiated, but folks, the rumors are very strong. Trust me, my sources are good, and other journalists can corroborate this as well. Now, again, I don't know exactly where it went wrong, why the relationship between Bayonne Mayor Jimmy Davis and Assemblyman Nicholas Chair Velody has soured so quickly, but it seems very certain, it's not likely, it seems a certainty that Jimmy Davis will not change his mind and that State Assemblyman Nicholas Chair Velody will not be on the county line. Now, again, according to county bylaws, that's up to Amy DeGees, the chairwoman of the Hudson County Democratic Organization, to make the final call. Now, subsequently, she's also running for city council, and more specifically, an at-large seat under Mayor Stephen Fulop's ticket. Now, whether these things are all interrelated, folks, I don't know. We all know that Nicholas Chair Velody is former state director for U.S. Senator Bob Menendez. We all know the heat and ongoing dislike that seems to exist between the senior United States Senator and Jersey City Mayor. Again, listen, I can't really pinpoint something here, but folks, where there's smoke, there's fire. And it seems like Nicholas Chair Velody pissed off the wrong people, and in this case, he pissed off one of his bosses, the mayor of Bayonne. Because at the end of the day, folks, assemblymen and assemblywomen, do serve at the pleasure and leisure of the local mayors. It'd be interesting to see if Bayonne Mayor Jimmy Davis changes his mind, but right now, he doesn't seem to be want even to do that, and apparently it'll leave Assemblyman Nicholas Chair Velody out in the cold. Now, whether or not he'll run off the line, and even if he can be successful, it remains to be seen, because he still has plenty of support from Governor Phil Murphy and Assembly Speaker Craig Coughlin. Again, ladies and gentlemen, I can't really pinpoint where this went wrong and where it went south, but it's definitely a story to keep an eye on as primary day is quickly approaching. And that's our show for this week. To check out all the excellent programming brought to you by the leader in independent media here in Hudson County, the Hudson Media Group, please check out their websites, www.hmgtvshows.com and www.livestream.com/HMGTV. Make sure you like the Hudson Media Group on Facebook and follow them both on Instagram and Twitter. And remember, live every Wednesday night at 9 p.m., ladies and gentlemen, it's the 4-time award-winning Talkin' the Hudson. You can listen to it live at 9 p.m. by going to www.blogtalkradio.com/Talkin' the Hudson from any PC, Mac, smartphone, or tablet. And don't forget, folks, if it's unbiased, unfiltered, and unafraid, it's Talking Politics right here with the Hudson Media Group. I'm your favorite professor and New Jersey's premier journalist, Fernando Uribe, saying so long, and I'll see you next time.
Don't forget to catch Fernando's podcast at blogtalkradio.com/talkonthehudson. New episodes available every Wednesday night at 9 p.m.